Recording in progress. So you've seen I've got an introduction thing now.
Mm. Well, I've seen the email. I haven't pressed on the link.
Right. Oh God, I gotta get in the mood. I'll do the introduction anyway because that kicks it off. Welcome to Danger Mouse, everybody. And in today's episode, we are going to talk about trust. And I've got a great story I want to get off my chest. So we'll get onto that in a minute. But before that, I want to say another thing I admire about Darrell. And that is the sheer bravery of coming on a podcast with me, because I can be a little bit random. And he never knows, he never knows quite what I'm going to bring up. So, Darrell, I'm going to congratulate you and say that I'm totally pleased and astonished that you got an award, as it says in Marquee Who's Who, which is the American Who's Who, from the Worshipful company of fan makers.
Yeah,
who were
isn't that
established
awesome?
300 years ago when a load of Huguenots were kicked out of France because of religious persecution. And they provided 6 mayors of London. And it's just... So, so this ancient guild of protectionist bumlickers, if you want to look at it in a somewhat jaundiced way, gave you a prize for what?
For I guess doing a good job on my master's degree. I wrote my thesis for my master's degree was about gas turbine design and a novel turbine cycle. And I guess I was the only person who did a thesis that year that probably had anything to do with the fan makers at all. That would be my guess. So I don't think the competition level was high, honestly.
Yeah,
But
but I just love the position. I mean, when we say fan makers, it's what you first imagine with a fan. It's that if you imagine the kind of parlors of Renaissance France, or whatever, with these overdressed ladies kind of cooling themselves down by flicking their fan. Just be careful, I say here, stop themselves fainting. That's the kind of fans they make. And suddenly they're giving prizes to people who are making jet engines because it's a fan. That's just super. That's just super.
Yes. To be honest, I'd never heard of them beforehand. And in fact, when I did my thesis, I still hadn't heard of them. So I've got no idea who made my thesis connect to the Worshipful Society of Fan
So
Makers.
did they seek you out? Did they seek you out?
I literally have no idea. And I'm the sort of person that's I'm a little bit embarrassed about these things anyway. So I never want to
Good,
searched
you should
afterwards.
be.
Yes. So it's like, oh, thank you very much for my medal, and let's move on. So that's what happened.
Right. And do you still know where your medal is?
I did. Oh, good question. I'm looking over there because there's a cabinet full of things that people give me when I go and do talks for them sometimes, and it may be in there, but I'm gonna guess it probably isn't. So in
So,
which case, I
because
don't know where it is.
if you can find it, we're gonna put it on our website. You think a photograph of
Okay.
it?
Yes. No, I
So
want a medal.
okay, that was a fairly light-hearted introduction. So let's go to a depth of despair because I've got my story. So credit card companies, banks. I'm not going to name them, but I am going to name some names. Uh, so they have a habit of they keep stopping my credit card from working, and it really nasties me off. Okay, so people who don't know me don't know that one of my hobbies, my big hobbies, is paddling kayaks around British Isles. I suppose I'm kind of working my way around the whole of the British Isles in 4 years. So 2 years ago, I was on stage number 1, and I was doing Southern England, and I was building up to doing the Thames in central London, so I wild camp, you see. and I was a bit stressed out about London because I didn't want to wild camp in London. And talking to some of the natives, they kind of didn't encourage me to do so. So there's a place called Teddington Lock, and Teddington Lock, that's the last lock on the River Thames, and below that it's tidal, and it's like majorly tidal. It can go faster than I can paddle in if it's going the wrong direction. So you've got to be cognizant of it. So basically, I had one of my big cock ups because I've got a pair of wheels that I was using to portage all these weirs, and the Thames is great because you've got these lock keepers, and if you can kind of tailgate a boat going into one of them, you don't have to portage it and you don't have to get your wheels out. So I managed to do 2 locks tailgating, and then I suddenly noticed that my wheels were 2 locks behind me. And this was as I was charging to get to Teddington Lock, because I had to kind of kick off at, I don't know, 11 o'clock the next day. So I was in a bit of a panic. So I pulled in a kind of local rowing outfit because they had lots of them. I was near, where was I near? Staines, I don't know, somewhere on the edge of London. And they kind of looked at me really suspiciously, but parked with me. So I left the boat there, went and got a hotel. I thought, sorry, I'll get a hotel. And anyway, Uber rescued me. Got a lift, got on the wheels, went and had a nice meal. It was all going really well. I had to be up 4 o'clock the next morning. So I thought, right, I need to get supplies. I need to get bloody supplies. So I went to the local Sainsbury's, and it's all walking, kind of takes a while because I don't have a car. I suppose it could have used Uber, but never mind. I fill my shopping bag full of goodies for the next day, go to pay, and the blooming credit card doesn't work. And it just really annoyed me because I just paid for a hotel, and I just paid for a big meal, and I couldn't get the 10 quid's worth of chocolate and peanuts and whatever I needed for the next day. So after having an altercation with the manager or whatever, I ended up going back to my hotel, getting my emergency card because I'm unprepared, and buying the damn stuff, and then ringing up the bank, and I said, "Why on earth did you let me pay 150 quid or all this other stuff and then stop a £10 transaction?" And they said, "Oh, it's what they do. These scammer people. They quite often, if they get hold of your card details, they'll try a little. They put their toe in the water. They'll try a little transaction and try a bigger one." So anyway, it seems to happen to me a lot, and particularly if you're doing unusual. Does it ever happen to you, Darrell? Because you've got unusual spending patterns
I do,
flying
yeah. I
all
think
over the
that,
world.
yeah. I think my bank's been pretty good. My business account, I would say, they took a long time to work out just how random my life is. So, yeah, my problems with them, and I have had them, they tend to be overseas. So it's like, yeah, how can you be in Copenhagen one day and Prague the
Yeah,
next
yeah, yeah,
day?
yeah.
Yeah.
But it also shows you, there I am kind of battling the elements and stuff. But what I'm really worried about is my credit card getting cut off, because that is serious, serious stuff if that happens to you. So anyway, wind forward to last Wednesday, and I was tired, and I was having to do a lot of kind of ancillary stuff that was quite important, and I wanted to go to bed for a kip. So I was faffing around with my computer, and then the phone goes, and it says, "Oh, it's your bank. We've spotted some interesting transactions." And I thought, "Yada yada, here we go again." And they go, "Oh, did you spend £6,000 on eBay?" I sort of woke up out of my torpor and go, "No." Like, "Did you spend 250 quid on Iceland?" I go, "No." So I thought, "Oh," and it was a terribly nice young man, and then he said, "Oh, okay, and have you been anywhere near Coventry lately?" And I live in Cornwall, which is a jolly long way from Coventry. You couldn't get up there that fast unless you had a TARDIS time machine. But anyway, so he then starts talking about we've got to cancel the transactions, and he gave me all these funny numbers and things, and then he started asking me, "Oh, have you lost your card? Do you know where it is? Could anyone have seen it? All that kind of stuff." And I go, "No, no, no." And went and got the card to reassure myself it was there. And then he goes, I said, "I've got to name names." He says, "Have you bought anything from Temu, which is a big Chinese kind of Amazon type thing that's been advertising like crazy lately?" I said, "No." And he said, "Oh, there's been details lost from them." And then he said, "What about Word of Books?" And yoo-hoo, yes, I literally just bought something from World of Books. So allegedly, and it's not me saying this, according to this nice man from the bank, I'm not going to tell you who it is, it's probably, so I was just eating out of his hand. So he says, "Have you got your banking app there?" Which I did. He said, "Log on." And he said, "Well, I'm going to send through the transaction," which he did. And there it was, eBay, £6,000. And he goes, "Press the confirm button." So there was a green button that said
No.
confirm, and there was a red button that said,
Oh my goodness me.
reject, reject transaction. So I just looked at this. I was having a mental conflict, but I thought, well, I didn't think too much at all. But I thought, he seems to know stuff about things that he shouldn't. So,
Yeah.
and he goes, "Press the confirm button." My finger
Wow.
kind of hovered over it, and I pressed it, and I was expecting it to say, "Put in one of the numbers you gave me," and nothing happened.
Right.
So I thought, "Oh," and then we chatted some more, and he said, "Cool, 250 quid at Iceland." I mean, it doesn't even fit in the shopping basket. So, so same procedure, and I'm going, "Oh, I can't press that button." And I did press the button because I trusted him, see.
Right.
And then the line went dead. And I thought, "Oh my goodness, what have you done? You utter, utter, utter plonker."
Bloody hell.
And
Wow.
and it's just bad. It's just bad on every level. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, so I was pretty utterly miserable. So all I want to do, ring the bank up. So I rang the bank up. I got through, and I said, "I've been scammed." And they go, is that the phone you used?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Ring me back on a landline." So I've just managed to reinstate our landline, kind of wireless one.
Right.
Got out working. Ring up again. And then they say, "Oh, we're going to transfer you through to the fraud department." So waiting music. And it was so bloody loud, it was like jangling with my nerves. So I was fiddling with this phone that I never used, trying to turn the volume down. I pressed the button and it suddenly said, "Your microphone is muted." So I was pressing all the buttons to try and unmute it like you'd expect, and it wasn't unmuting. And then suddenly the lady on the other said, "Hello, Mr. Conroy, are you there? Are you there?" I was pressing all the buttons like crazy. Ah! And they said, "Mr. Conroy." And she hung up on me. So here am I, bloody lost £7,000 in debt to despair. So I ring up again using the other phone. Fuck 'em. And I finally get through to the fraud. I said, "Have I been scammed?" They go, "No, that was us. We did ring you." So it's literally, I had been, what was it? I'd been beaten up by the police. I'd been accosted by the police who'd just totally, utterly, spoilt my day. They had spoilt my day.
Yeah.
And so what has this got to do with innovation? Well, this is a bit of a stretch. So if they were using, because Darrell knows that there's 40 inventive principles, and I only know one of them. And I just either pre-use it or post-justify the use of it.
No,
So if they were really, really clever and they'd use your inventive principles, they'd say, so one way or another, this customer has been careless because his deals. Frankly, I hadn't been careless because it was not my fault whatsoever. There's some bloody trusted third party screwed me over. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend to scam them in such a way they'll never forget it for the rest of their lives. And look how cautious they'll be from that point in.
Yeah.
Because that's what they did to me. And to finish off the story, I when this sort of thing happens to you, it's traumatic, and you don't want it to happen to anyone else. So I ended up talking to their customer lot, and she didn't get it because I think she's used to people wanting money back for whatever reason or whatever, and she just didn't get it. And I said, I don't think it's a good idea for your fraud department to cold call people and not to make a big deal about checking who on earth you're talking to, because that's what I didn't do. You get all these officials and they come knock on the door, and I just trust everybody because I'm just like that. But they kind of, even though you didn't ask for it, and at that moment you suddenly think, oh, I ought to be a little bit cautious, yeah. And that's what I never did. They said, so they're actually, because I don't think my theory about them being super inventive is right for a second. It's just they're in the system. They've got a big computer system that they can't change to do sensible things, and they're actually training customers to believe unbelievable people who ring them up, who ask them to do incredible things. So I feel very passionately about this, but I've got it off my chest, so I can put it behind me now. So there we go.
So that's the money actually gone, or we now got it back again? Was it the bank testing you out?
Oh no, the money never went anywhere because I think they spotted it. I think they spotted it.
Right.
All this farce about what I had to do, I didn't understand it because after I pressed the button to say I accepted £6,000 eBay transaction, I was thinking, ooh, if I was a really clever criminal, I'd be sitting there with my cloned phone, doing the transaction and getting the plonkers on the other side to accept it for them, And the bloke was going, oh, it's not come through. You can see it's not charged anything. And I was thinking, such a credible story. Well, maybe it takes 2 minutes to come through, or half an hour, or whatever. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, I think if you're applying this thinking to the criminal world, I think in many ways, I think innovation is breaking rules. But the difference between innovation and crime is that innovation, you're trying to break the rules to find better rules, whereas the criminal is just looking to break the rules to make sure that they win and you don't.
Well, all right, let's go off on a tangent because this is something that you did a post or something on Twitter X that you'd read something about how a adverse environment breeds innovation. Yeah. And I've also got the notion from somewhere that rule breakers tend to be, good innovators because they're looking to change the status quo. And I was just thinking, goodness me, that's what a prison is. It's a place full of rule breakers in an adverse environment with nothing to do but think of, when I get out of jail, I'm going to come up with the most cunning scheme. Now, unfortunately, social conscience coming in here. Society manages to pick up a lot of inadequate people who've got all sorts of problems and just cannot cope with society because it's hard.
Mm.
But amongst them are some really, really bright people. You know, it's the cliche of the university of crime, but the new
Yeah.
spin on it is the university of criminal innovation.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if you know the story, but the founder of Riz, and one day it'll make a great Hollywood movie. Yeah, so he's arrives on the scene after the Second World War, sent to the patent office. So he's in the Navy, sent to the patent office, go and find good solutions, and very quickly begins to see this pattern of millions of ways of solving problems badly, very small number of ways of doing it well. So he wrote a paper saying, look, here's a way of making all Soviet engineers much more creative. We found these patterns. And as a result of that, in 1947, which turns out to be Stalin's last roundup of the intellectuals in the country. So he gets to spend 3 years in a gulag in Siberia. And so what he does there is effectively sets up that criminals university, except it's now the People's University. So you've got this gulag where you've got all of the intelligentsia of the Soviet Union locked up together, physicists, chemists, biologists. And so he says, look, here's what we've been finding. And then, so what do you think, physicists? What do you think, biologists? And so he gets to turn the very negative thing of being in a gulag in Siberia into a positive that says, let's continue the research. And this idea of distilling the whole world down to first principles and understanding how things work and how innovation works.
Which is grist to the mill, isn't it, of the horizontal wisdom story? Absolutely.
I mean, it literally is. Yeah, I mean, locked up with all the different domain specialists in front of you, and you've got nothing to do with your time, other than survive. And best way to survive is keep your mind active and share knowledge with each other.
So, if I gave you a university tomorrow, if I gave you overlordship of Cambridge University,
Yes,
you
I like
could
this
write
plot.
a random number generator and use it to move all the staff around. So every department was a mix of. Is that a good idea? Is that a good idea?
No, I mean, based on the experiment that's happened at my old university, definitely not. I think the herding cats is probably the right analogy for that. I mean, I think it would be wonderful to be able to do it, but I think the whole idea of vertical specialism is so endemic to society, and in many ways, I think the education system is the root of it. So, in other words, none of us can get out of that system because the education system that's creating and throwing out more and more vertically skilled people has got no incentive at all to stop doing that and start spitting out horizontally oriented people. So, I think you'd almost have to shut down academia and start again. I think.
The ultimate computer person's fix for everything. Is that what you're teaching in your problem solving?
Well, if I'm being slightly more generous, I mean, I think we're at a time in history where we need this horizontal thinking. So I think it would be nice to say, out of all the universities on the planet, wouldn't it be great to have one which was dedicated to looking at the world horizontally instead of vertically, and just run it as some kind of an experiment rather
That's
than
why
you
need a couple of billion in your bank account.
I think I think think it'd be nice to have a university with a name. So I mean, I occasionally have taught at Cambridge University, and if I was picking what would be the ideal university to base this on, I think Cambridge would be right at the bottom of the list because I think very often that combination of supreme arrogance coupled with ignorance, that's Cambridge, I think.
Right. Okay. So that was a very good example of your deep-held prejudice, Darrell. So thank you for that.
So I don't think I'm going to win a medal from the Cambridge University branch of the Fanmakers Society, am I?
So trust. I kind of vaguely recall we're talking about that. So you've got something to add, so crack on with it.
Uh, well, I don't know that I've got any great contribution, but what I have been doing recently is mentoring mentors. And so that's people inside large organizations usually that are going to mentor youngsters inside the organization.
So
And
give us some background. How did you get into that? Is that something you strove for? If someone's approached
uh,
you?
I, I think well, it's definitely somebody that's approached me. So I think it's one of those things where, because our whole rationale is let's distill the will down to first principles, then yeah, part of that journey at some point you're going to encounter trust. And okay, what does trust mean at a first principle level? And I think this is somebody who heard me talking about that stuff and said, "Oh, I'm really struggling mentoring this particular person. Let's get Darrell in and see what he might have to say about it." And
Hang about. You were doing a talk on trust.
no, I was doing a talk on talent development actually,
Ah,
but
okay.
trust
There you are.
becomes part of that. So yeah, from a talent development perspective, who should I trust? Yeah, which source of knowledge should I trust? And yeah, through painful experience inside our research team, we've understood that yeah, the majority of people on the planet, yeah, authors, artisans, you should not trust. So yeah, how do you get through that? And
To
then
trust me and you, is that the ultimate answer, Darrell?
Uh, well, no, because I think I mean, yeah, if you try and distill trust down to what do we actually mean, and I think yeah, society doesn't really know what it means, but I think it's got two critical dimensions to it. One is character. So I think you're a person of good character occasionally,
I'll
and
take
then
that.
the second
Take that as a
dimension
win. Yeah.
is competence. So are you good at stuff? So
Uh-oh.
if I'm
How
looking for some
dodgy
advice,
ground.
I'm looking for some advice on kayaking around the British Isles, then you're the go-to guy for me. But if I'm looking for advice on, I don't know,
Well,
piloting
let me save you. Let me
a
save you
747,
from embarrassing you there, Darrell. So who are these people you're mentoring?
there's usually senior leaders inside organisations.
Okay. And is
So
this
so
like
so
a charitable effort on your behalf?
no, I get. I mean, initially it was yeah. I'm very happy to come and talk to you about it. And then it becomes, oh well, we've got about 50 of these people a year that we'd like to put through a program. Could you teach that program? And so that's what
Right.
it's become.
Yeah. That's
So
not
so so at that point, I'm going to say, yeah, it'd be nice to be paid for it, please. And yeah, I mean, it's enjoyable. So I probably would do it for free. I hope they don't hear this podcast. But yeah, the idea is you've got high flyer advanced career path leaders, and the company is pretty good at passing on knowledge to the next generation, and that's part of the expectation of becoming a leader inside the company is that you are going to do that job.
right. Okay. So where does trust come in the syllabus? Is it one of the most foundational principles?
I think foundation is a good word. I think yeah, if you don't have trust, then yeah, I can't until I believe what you say. Yeah, are you a person that can impart something useful to me? So if you don't have that trust element there, then I think yeah, everything goes beyond has got a big question mark over it. So I think right at the beginning of an interaction with somebody, when you first meet somebody, the old cliche of you never get a second chance to make a first impression. Yeah, how do you convey trust early on? Yeah, how do you demonstrate to somebody that yes, you're a person of good character and you're competent to be talking to them about whatever the subject is?
Hmm. So is that something you think about, how to make someone else trust you?
I think by definition, I mean, yeah, I think we live in a world where no matter what you're doing, we're all in the selling business. Yeah, we're all trying to sell ourselves these days. And having had such horrendous experiences whenever we've tried salespeople, then yeah, I think you start to have to go back to first principles yourself. I mean, the rationale for the research team, we apply it to whatever we do. So yeah, why are my salespeople not selling anything when I've tried this organisation that they can tell they've told me they can sell anything? Yeah, why have they sold nothing in the last 12 months? Um, then that's when you start the investigation. You start to say, okay, well, someone somewhere solved my problem. So who do I go and listen to get advice on trust? And then how can I test what I've learned there? And then perhaps even more importantly, how do I communicate that then to other people?
Right.
So I think for me, it's the intrigue at the beginning is, first of all, somebody's asked me the question, and I love it when people ask me questions that I don't know the answer to. And it gives an opportunity to test all the things that we've been looking at over the years. And again, trying to distill things down to first principles.
Right. So I'm just desperately trying to think, other than parting off my great story, why I brought up trust. And I think so. Yuri Harari's, I love him. Okay, so he wrote *Sapiens*, and he said the whole of human society is pulled together by stories.
Yeah.
And one of the things those stories do is promote trust between people. So, and the classic, non-obvious story is money itself. Okay, so you give somebody a material object like a car, going back a bit, and in exchange for that, you would give them a lot of paper. Okay, paper banknotes. So that system is pretty extraordinary, really. That you're giving them something that is worthless unless everybody believes the story, and that story is based on trust. Because that's what a bank run is, if you think about it. So suddenly the trust is gone because another story comes out that things are going to go pear-shaped, and just in an instant, banks are destroyed. And I guess this is all very interesting philosophically, but coming back to the thing we're going to come to again and again, which is the way AI, not that it's going to change our world, the way it's started to change our world, and it's going to increasingly do so.
Yeah.
And you start looking at the implications of that on trust, and it is, well, we try to have a positive spin on this show, but it's very terrifying because, well, like for instance, when I ring my bank up at the moment, I tell you what, I really hate. I really hate. Sorry, I wind back again. Have you seen the film Sliding Doors?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, the premises of the film is a split-second decision whether somebody goes through some doors or not divides the life, future life story into two very different parts. Okay. Now, the thing that worries me is sometimes I go to log onto a website or do something online, and then they come back and they say you've got to log on, and you think, oh, I've already got an account, and then they ask you to give the 4th and the 7th and the 8th number of your password, right? And that is just a step too far for me. I'd rather go and bore my head than kind of sit there for half an hour and
write down the word that you've been told not to write down, so you can work out what the 4th letter is.
Exactly. Yeah. But the point is, I'm just thinking that has just changed my life. That fucking obstacle has just changed my life. And that thing that I was going to be a good boy and get it done, I've suddenly not done, and then I kind of get distracted. And 3 days later, I think, oh gosh, I should have done that. You see, so that is just a totally trivial example of the complexities of this world that are kind of coming up more and more.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I work with some of the software guys that write those kind of security things, and there's a long way to go in terms of emotional intelligence, shall we say.
So anyway, I just remembered the point I was trying to make, which is I like my bank because they use voice recognition to, so I don't have to give them passwords, and there's 3 different passwords and all that rubbish. Great. But now, as we know, people need to know, you've got AI systems that can reproduce people's voice so that humans can't tell the difference. I don't know whether these recognition systems can tell the difference. I wouldn't be surprised if they can be fooled.
Yeah, no, I'm certain they can.
And so have we got this kind of perverse effect that as technology gets more and more sophisticated, that levels of trust are because that technology can be used to circumvent other technological methods and advances to make that whole relationship building easier, that we're going to find it harder and harder to do stuff online. An example of that is two-factor authentication. Because, suddenly you used to be able to go onto Amazon, say, and buy something, and that was it. But now, if it's over, I don't know, 100 quid or whatever, you've suddenly got to go to your phone and your app, and if you've got your fingerprint, you can do that, and then you've got to do it again, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
They made it more secure, but at a cost.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've worked on that contradiction with clients, many times. So that I want security, but I also want convenience and I want speed, and those things inevitably fight each other. So there are strategies, but I think if you look at which are the sectors of society that are moving the fastest in terms of innovation, then it's digital is certainly it, and security comes right at the top of that because uh, your scam story, I think, is classic case of the criminal's job is to break the rules and stay ahead of the system. Until the software people on the good side, the white hat side, are cognizant and know how to design anti-fragile systems, then the criminal is always going to have the upper hand, I would say.
So now the trouble with Darrell is that often he's got some really great examples up his sleeve, but he's tied up with all sorts of NDAs and rules and reasons he can't talk about them. But I mean, have you come across some, have you and your team come up with some good solutions, and are any of them deployed right now or in the process of being deployed?
There are some. So I think in terms of making the computer more human, definitely. In terms of foolproof sensor systems and ways of knowing whether the person is who the person is, I think yes. So fingerprint, retina scan, but a lovely project on cough and coughing, which are also very personal things, which has got a medical application as well as a security one. So you get somebody to cough, and the AI can work out what's behind the cough. Is this a serious disease? Is this just a tickle in the throat? So I think there's lots of things which characterize us as individuals, and I think the more you can make these things invisible, so the customer's not aware that there's a retina scan going, that your breathing's been analysed, for example, and fingerprinted, then so long as you trust the system, then it becomes invisible. So you get the security that you want and the convenience in that it's all happening without you knowing about it happening. And it can work on multiple levels. So it's fingerprint plus retina plus breathing plus tone of voice, etc., etc., which can give the bank or whoever it is an increasingly resilient indication that yes, Mike is Mike and not somebody pretending to be Mike.
Right, which also highlights another contradiction, which is, in order to be trusted, we have to trust more ourselves, and in doing so, we give away more and more of our personal information, which, if you know, as I study AI and kind of catch up with what's been going on, you realise that is what they're after, and that
Yeah.
leads to increasingly sophisticated AIs having so
Agreed.
much data about you that they know more about you, and forget about all your friends and your partners. They know
Oh
an
yeah.
awful lot more about you than you know about yourself,
Yeah,
which
absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
is
yeah. So I mean,
incredible position of power. Yeah.
some of the algorithms we've built on, software that analyzes the narrative. So the words that we use, and how you can learn stuff about people from that. We know how intrusive that is. I mean, thank goodness we wrote an ethics statement at the beginning of the research to say, okay, we know that we're doing this for good, and we only work with clients where there is that level of trust. But I think you're right. Once the genie's out of the bottle, it's very difficult to get it back in, because again, we're back in this arms race of the goodies versus the baddies, and yet you hope that the goodies prevail. But there's no doubt that if you're saying, okay, well, out of the goodies and the baddies, who's the most innovative, then no contest, the baddies are the innovative ones,
Yes. And they
because
tend
they know
not to
because
have
their
too
life,
much red tape slowing them down.
their life is breaking rules, and
Yeah.
innovation fundamentally is breaking rules, so they're good at it.
But on the positive side, because we are a positive podcast, I
Yeah,
think,
White Hats will win.
it's a game that's been played a long time. Generally, the goodies, this is very debatable, come out on top. In terms of achieving a stable society, shall we say?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think my frustration of the last 25 years is that why do the goodies not want to do more innovation? And I think perhaps we're now starting to reach a world where the goodies realise that I do need to innovate. Innovation equals breaking rules, so therefore, I'm going to learn those skills. And that's the positive spin I would take on it. I think
Yes.
there's a will and there's a recognition of the extent of the AI problem these days. So the goodies had better get together and work out how to beat the baddies. But innovation,
And
it's going
it's,
to be innovation.
but I get the impression that it's such a blooming nerdy thing, isn't it? It's such a kind of it's not sunk in with the average man or woman.
No, no, I think the um, as a species, I think uh, as long as we think that the rules still apply, we're going to apply them. So one of the reasons why society needs crises is they're the moments when people now suddenly wake up and think, oh, okay, so those rules don't apply anymore. It's okay for me to do something different. In fact, it's necessary for me to do something different now. Don't let a good crisis go to waste. I hear that expression used all the time inside organizations. I've even seen some brave organizations who've artificially created a crisis because they know that that's the only time that they'll get people to change inside the business. We need to know from an individual perspective, head, heart, gut, that the rules no longer apply. This is now in a different world. We talked about S curves and this discontinuous jump from one S curve to another. Hero's journey. That is, when we pushed off the S curve or we jump off the current S curve and the current way of doing things, it's because we realize the current way no longer is the appropriate way. We have to go and find something different now.
So that actually completes the circle, because that goes back to my theory that my bank created an artificial crisis to make me learn that I should not trust cold callers.
It's a pretty risky strategy, isn't it? It's one that I'm much happy to hear you talking about rather than having to experience it myself.
Yes,
Um,
yes, but it's made me less fragile, I'm sure.
It's,
So that
it's
that was good.
one
So
step closer to anti-fragile. Well done.
I think it's time to kind of call this a day. It's
Well, now we know that you are more anti-fragile. It's job done, isn't it?
it is. It was a wonderful experience all round. So cheerio then, Darrell.
Thank
I'll
you.
see you
See you soon.
later. Bye bye.
Bye.